So I want to introduce Ashley Boren from Sustainable Conservation. And Sustainable Conservation is probably the single best name you could have come up with for this organization. So let me tell you a little bit about it, which, I mean, Ashley's really built it from the ground up. So what they do is they look not only at environmental needs, but the economic models that need to be behind them to make the solution work. So it's all about getting government and business and agriculture on the same page by aligning the incentives around the problem so that the solutions they come up with are sustainable in the long term. So because of that, Ashley received one of the most prestigious awards in the United States, which is the Irvine Foundation Leadership Award for exactly that, innovative problem solving. So with that, Ashley Boren.
Be careful right here.
Okay.
I have a tech situation.
So thanks very much, and Susan Corlett, my communications director, would you take notes on how he described us, because that was great. Thanks very much. That was a very kind introduction. So I'm Ashley Boren. I am the executive director of Sustainable Conservation, and I'm really delighted to be here to be able to thank you, SV2, in person for what you've made possible, which is you've helped build our organization's capacity by helping us launch a new program that addresses what I think is a critical issue for the state, which is water, and specifically water use efficiency. So for those of you who don't know us, Sustainable Conservation is an environmental nonprofit group that partners with business, government, and other stakeholders to find environmental solutions that make economic sense. We have a fundamental belief that a healthy economy and a healthy environment can and really must go together. And so we work on solutions, practical solutions, that can shift entire industries towards greener practices. And I'm proud to say we have a strong track record on implementing these kinds of solutions, specifically around the areas of climate change, water and air quality, and biodiversity. And I thought I'd give you just a couple of quick examples before I talk about what the SV2 grant funded. And the first is Cow Power, and that is a partnership we've had with the dairy industry to address climate change by capturing the methane that comes off of manure and using that to create renewable energy, which we believe with some more work is going to become a real win-win for both the economy and the environment. And the second is Plant Right, where we have a partnership with the nursery industry to stop the sale of invasive plants, which greatly increase the risk of fire, flooding, and just completely wipe out habitats and all the species that those habitats provide. And for those of you in this area, I'm sure if you've driven up down Highway 1, you'll recognize pampas grass, which is really taking over all those hillsides. That was introduced through gardening, and it just shouldn't have been. So we're working with the industry to stop that, the sale of those, and to sell non-invasive plants instead. So our long-range vision is really to make California a model for environmental and economic sustainability. And we're doing this by partnering with business on the issues of climate change, water, air quality, and biodiversity. And water is where SV2 comes into the picture. While we've had a strong track record of working on water quality issues with a wide variety of industries to promote practices that protect water quality, we have not done much to date or before this grant in the area of water use, and particularly water use efficiency, so quantity issues. And you know, there's many environmental groups that work on the issues, the contentious issues surrounding the Delta and the San Joaquin River. But when we started to look into it, there's really relatively few, if any, that work at the farmscape level. So we saw an opportunity to leverage the strong partnerships we have with the agricultural sector to start promoting practices that makes farms more water use efficient. And this is really important because agriculture in California uses about 75% of our available water. And if we're going to support a growing population and still have enough water for fish and other species, agriculture does have to become more water use efficient. I want to make sure that you don't think that every farmer out there uses water inefficiently, because that's just not the case. There are a lot of farmers in certain areas of the state where they're incredibly water use efficient, and frankly, I don't think they could get more so. But there are other areas of the state where there just has been no incentive to be more water use efficient, and that's where we're trying to focus our efforts, because there really are significant opportunities there. Prior to the SV2 grant, we did about a 6-month study exactly examining this. Where were the geographic areas? Which crops had the most potential for water use efficiency? And what were the kind of emerging technologies and practices that would make those farms more water use efficient? And then SV2's grant was really well timed for us because it enabled us to act on that study and to identify 2 particularly promising practices for demonstrations on farms, and then for education and outreach into the ag community. And so I'm going to, in my time, which I think I got 7 minutes, I'm going to describe one of them, which was a project with Dixon Ridge Farms and Winters with Russ Lester. He's a walnut farmer. And he is just the kind of innovative early adopter that Sustainable Conservation loves to work with. And I was actually at his farm last week, so I got to see this in person, and it really is truly impressive. I'm going to tell you about his low-pressure suspended sprinkler technology, and I know nobody has any idea what that is, so I'm going to describe it to you. So imagine a walnut orchard and tubing that is draped along the branches of the trees, and then coming down from that tubing like a hose are smaller tubes that go almost all the way down to the ground with a nozzle at the end. That's a low pressure suspended sprinkler system. And most orchards in California either use flood irrigation, which is they just basically spread the water all across the ground, or there are many that are on drip irrigation in some of the more water use efficient areas. This orchard that he is converting happens to be flood. And so the water savings that he is realizing from this are 80%. And not only is he saving that much water, he's also saving energy because he's having to pump less water. We're partnering with him now to document those savings and also to add soil monitors so that he can be watching the moisture of the soil at the same time. And we think there'll be even further water savings from that. And the reason that he is the only farmer in California that's actually using this system. This is a pretty innovative new system. And the reason that it's better than drip is for three main reasons. First, the equipment lasts longer. And that's because drip irrigation that's buried in the soil, animals chew on it. They want the water, they chew on it, and so that you actually have to replace it with some regularity. In addition, because the water is dripping all the way out and it basically drains through, you don't get insects clogging it up. And so that means less maintenance. Also, it sprinkles very evenly around the trunk, which means that the root system can spread more widely, it's more stable. They believe it's really going to increase the longevity of these trees and their hardiness, make them live longer. And then also, he's able to support a really robust cover crop. So if you went to his orchard right now, it's gorgeous. It's all these walnut trees that are bloomy with just beautiful green cover crops and flowers beneath it. And that reduces his air pollution because he's not got bare dirt. And it also supports all these beneficial insects. So he is indeed an organic farmer that can rely on those instead of pesticides. So once we have the data on the system, which we believe is going to be very promising, we're going to work to promote adoption of that technology across about 250,000 acres of walnuts that are in the state and the 750,000 acres of almonds. And that's about 12–13% of the irrigated agriculture in California. So you can see how it could have a very significant impact. And if we were to achieve just a 5% reduction in the applied water statewide for those two crops, that would be about 200,000 acre-feet. Now, I bet that doesn't mean a lot to you either, but take a guess as to how many households that is. 400,000. That's 400,000 households by that amount of water savings. Another way to think about it, it's over half of the storage capacity of the Hetch Hetchy Reservoir. So it's significant.
Keep going.
The great things about this is not only are you saving water that we hope will be able to remain in streams or rivers or recharge the groundwater, you're using less energy and carbon, and there's also less greenhouse gas emissions, and this comes from when you have excess water and fertilizer mixing on farm fields, you get nitrous oxide, which is a very powerful greenhouse gas and one that we definitely want to control. So the great thing is it's water savings, but it has all these additional environmental benefits. And one last benefit, which is that for folks that do use fertilizer, you're going to have less runoff off of your fields. You have less nitrates that are getting into surface water or into groundwater. And if anybody has heard the NPR series that's been on the last couple of days about the problems with nitrogen pollution and connection to drinking water, particularly in some of the more less advantaged areas and blue baby syndrome, that is something that we definitely want to be decreasing. So as I said, we're going to be collecting. I'm not going to go into the other ones. I don't think I have time, but it's similarly promising. And I just really want to thank SV2 again for helping us launch into this new area. I believe, as I said, it's a really critical issue for California, and I believe it's a place where sustainable conservation with our particular skill set can really have a value-added role and help us have a more sustainable water